Okay, so this is where we are going to take this equation, find the intercepts using the equation, and then eventually we'll graph it. So this is going to help with questions 14 through 18. Now, remember in the last video, I stressed when you have an x-intercept, your y-coordinate is 0, right? And when you're looking for the y-intercept, your x-coordinate is 0. So I'm just going to ask you to keep that in mind while we find these intercepts. So let's start by finding our x-intercept. X-intercept. Now remember, x-intercept, we're going to have some value for x. We don't know what it is yet. And a 0 for our y, right? So you're finding your x-intercept, so your y value is 0. So what we're going to do is take this equation here, this 5x plus 4y equals negative 16, and we're going to plug a 0 in for y to find our x value. So we've got 5x plus 4. Now instead of writing y, just write 0. And that equals negative 16. The cool part about using zeros is stuff just cancels out. 4 times 0 is nothing. It's gone. Yay. So we have 5x equals negative 16. Right? And to solve for x, you just divide by 5. Those cancel. And x equals negative 16 over 5. Fractions happen. They happen. So your final answer for your x-intercept, okay, negative 16 over 5, comma 0. So that is your answer. Now we're going to take a look at solving. So that's our x-intercept. Now we're going to solve for our y-intercept. So our y-intercept, now remember, y-intercept, that was sloppy, I'm sorry. That means we're going to have some value for y, and x is 0. So we're just going to plug in 0 everywhere we see the x. So some of you need to write it out, where you say 5 times 0 plus 4y equals negative 16. Some of you might just be able to jump to the fact that, like, okay, if I'm going to plug in 0 for my x term is going to, like, just disappear no matter what. And you might be able to just jump to this assumption. Now we divide both sides by 4. And y equals, okay, negative 16 over 4. Our last, like for our x-intercept, it was an improper fraction because there was nothing we could do with that. But negative 16 over 4, that simplifies to negative 4. So your final answer is 0, comma, negative 4. Woo. Okay, so here for this one, right, we're going to be looking at our x-intercept. Right? X-intercept means we have some value for x, and y is 0. So if y is 0, we could sit there and, like, plug it in for the y, which might work for some of you. But, right, if I'm going to plug in 0 for y, can't I just, like, cut to the chase and get rid of this? Minus 0, like, obviously it's going to go away. So I just have 5x equals negative 2. Divide by 5 on both sides. And x equals negative 2/5, which is fine. Fractions happen. Negative 2/5, comma 0. That is my x-intercept. Let's take a look at our y-intercept. So again, our y-intercept, that is where x is equal to 0, and we're going to solve for y. Now, if x equals 0, we would be plugging in a 0 for this x, right? What's 5 times 0? It's nothing. It's gone. You can kind of skip steps with all these zeros, which is nice. So now we have negative y equals negative 2. 2. I don't know why I said it like that. Which is, if it makes you feel cozy, you could put that little negative 1 in there. Then we divide by negative 1 on both sides. And y equals, what is negative 2 divided by negative 1? Positive 2. That's a terrible 2. Terrible 2s, like my daughter. Okay, so y is 2. And that is your y-intercept. Okay, pause your video now. You find the x-intercept. That's your first step. That's your next step. Divide by 7. 6 over 7 is your x value. So this is your answer. 6 over 7, comma, 0. Now, here we go. Okay, you find the y-intercept. Remember, x is 0, so you can just kill the x term. Right? Okay, negative 3y equals 6. Divide both sides by negative 3. Cancel, cancel. Y equals negative 2. Right? Because 6 divided by negative 3 is negative 2. Reach out if you don't know what's happening. Okay, so now we're finally at a place where we're going to graph. This is everything you've done so far this week leading up to this. So first, we do what we were just doing. We find the x-intercept. Okay, so we're going to find the intercepts. Let's look for the x-intercept first, just because. Right, x-intercept means y is 0, which means the y term just goes away, right? And we have 2x equals 2. Therefore, we divide both sides by 2, and x equals 1. Okay, so our x-intercept is this right here. 1 comma 0, which is this point right here. And now we're going to focus on finding our, I made like a little squiggle. We're going to focus now, hold on. We're going to focus now on finding our y-intercept, right? So our y-intercept, y has some sort of value, but x is 0. So if x is 0, we can either, you can plug your little 0 in there, but really just recognize that this thing is going to go away. So we have negative 1y equals 2. Then we divide both sides by negative 1. And y equals 2 divided by negative 1 is negative 2. Negative 2. So 0, negative 2. That's our second point, and you connect the dots. So it's basically just putting everything we've done so far together. Okay, so I want you to pause the video. I want you to pause the video. I want you to find the x-intercept. So the x-intercept would be negative 4, okay? Right? Because if y is 0, 2 times y, like this term just sort of disappears, and this is pretty straightforward. The only thing left is x equals negative 4. So that would be your x-intercept. So now pause the video, find your y-intercept. Right? So for y-intercept here in purple, 0 for x, that makes that disappear. You end up with 2y equals negative 4, and then you just divide both sides by 2. Y equals negative 4 divided by 2 is negative 2. So if y is equal to negative 2, you drop that in there. Okay, now we're actually just going to plot these points. Okay, so back here in blue, we do our x-intercept, which is negative 4, 0, right there. And then our y-intercept is over here, 0, -2. Okay, and then you just make a line. And that's how that's done. Okay, I know this video is a little long, but now it's over.